Hey you all, this is Rima Desai. Today I accomplished something so big at my work. I help so many people, like somehow they just don't seem to get my value. I'm always the person who's never being valued enough when I do so much work. And the other day when we went trekking, it was the hardest trek ever. And I had to really become the leader and help other people come on to the cross them over. I help them. I have such great achievements. Nobody ever seems to understand how great I am. And there's always got to be attention in me. There has to be attention in me. Look at how good I look with this new life setting. Are you getting it? Are you even getting it? Are you getting all the bling bling and the sparkle right now? And the sparkle behind me and the attention. How do I look in this hat? I look so good, but poor me. I always have to work so hard. Everybody has their lives so much better than I do. Like they all the time get the support they want. They have what they want, but poor me. Poor me. Like life is just hard. It's never fair to me. And don't you tell anybody that I am, as such, really whisper. I have some criminal accounts in my legal history, but like nobody needs to know about it. And nobody knows because I look so good and I'm so charming and I can charm people with the way I talk. Nobody needs to know about my illegal criminal activity. So today, this is Rima Desai. I'm thinking if I can go back to, I hope you got a good synopsis. The star has to still be on me. There has to be attention on me because that's what I'm talking about today. Personality disorders and obsession. Gotta take some selfie clicks. Gotta look cool. Really good. We're talking about some of the most important personality disorders in psychology so that you crazy people understand psychology is not only about craziness that psychologists exhibit all the time, but it's also about other things that are called personality disorders that are with a lot of empathy. I do want to mention that that's a person's makeup. Let's just look at it as that's how the person has become or is made, and they are doing their best, but that's their makeup. And when we talk about narcissism, we use that word very loosely nowadays, extremely loosely, where you'll be like, oh, my husband is a narcissist, my wife was a narcissist. I hear that all the time. But there's a striking feature about narcissism that really separates a person who really has narcissistic personality disorder versus somebody who could just have generally less empathy than you would want them to have, or show you less support than you would want them to give you. A narcissist personality, I started the video in a certain series. The examples that I gave, the things that I talked about, went in the series. So a narcissist personality is the easiest to catch in the first 10 to 15 seconds of every time you meet them, or even the first time you meet them. The attention is always on themselves, and the attention is always on their greatness. For a narcissist personality, they are great. They believe it truly, madly, deeply, all the time. They are never at fault, and that stems from an insecurity for losing power. They're insecure about losing their power, and they are internally just obsessed about themselves. There's a general lack of empathy towards others. They just don't have that capacity. They do not have the capacity they can learn that can be learned to a certain extent in therapy. But the fact about narcissism is they're the hardest people to get into therapy because they strongly believe that there's nothing wrong with them when everybody around them could see it, especially people who live with them. But outside to the world, for people who don't understand narcissism, they could come out as the best charmers. They're the people who keep you engaged in talk. But the catch there is they will always talk about themselves. The focus, the limelight, the stars, the sparkles that you see around me. It's all about me. I'm a narcissist. You better listen to me and how great I am and the great deeds that I do, and that other people just don't seem to get it, value it, understand it. They never do. And that's why I have to keep talking about myself all the time. So in the first 15 seconds, you can know if I'm a narcissist, because you will know. I may say hi to you. I may ask you how you are, but that's about it. After that, it's going to be me, my story. And they're great at telling life stories. They're amazing at telling life stories. They come out as very powerful, very dominant, almost bossy. But initially, their whole focus is to charm you, right? So they're going to be very good at that. Some of our great spiritual leaders in the world, so-called spiritual leaders, charismatic leaders, are narcissist personalities. Did you know that? So after narcissism, I'm not diving very deep into each one of them, but after narcissism, let's talk about histrionic personality disorder. That's a disorder where a person needs to be the center of attention. And it's different from narcissism in the sense that in narcissism, they lack empathy and they want to hold the power and they believe that they're the best. For a histrionic personality, it's just that insecurity of if people are not constantly looking at me and I'm not the center of attention, then there's something wrong with me. So they are going to strive really hard to keep the attention on themselves. Let me move out over here. You don't need to look at my closet, okay? You just need to look at me. That's me. That's me. That's awesome. That's me. I'm self-obsessed. So in histrionic personality disorder, there's a lot of the need and craving to be the center of attention. And so they will do anything to keep that attention on themselves. It's less grave, less intense than narcissist personality disorder. If we were to talk about BPD, a borderline personality disorder, I find that pretty challenging. I could definitely not live with a narcissist. I can be their friend. I can't live with them. I can do with a histrionic personality disorder. But a borderline personality disorder is very hard to manage. The reason is they're constantly scared and insecure of being abandoned. So if you heard my initial introduction where I started talking about poor me, everybody is better, everybody's life is better, everybody is, they have the support, everything's easy for other people, but not for me, never for me, never, never, never. I'm always the victim. And you could give a borderline personality disorder everything in the world, everything, and yet they will be the poor me. They keep complaining, they keep crying, and with borderline personality, they are also the people who will immediately, when you meet them, sometimes they won't even greet. They may just ask you quickly, how are you? And then immediately they'll start pouring out their miseries. That's how they're different from narcissists. Narcissists are going to talk about their greatness, like, I am great. And that's why some of the charismatic leaders in the world, they're so good at charming you with their speech. They'll give you the best philosophical speech in the world, and you'll be like, wow, this person is like so spiritual and knowledgeable and wise, but they are not all of them, but there are those that I know. Their focus is for them to charm you so that you will start following them, become their followers, so that like they can bathe in their self-glory. But in a borderline personality, it's not about their greatness. It's about how little their life is and how bad their life is and how victimized and helpless they are. And it's always about that all the time. You call them and they'll always have either the same things or something to complain about, and they can go to therapy and they will tell you that they're doing everything, but somehow nothing seems to click, nothing seems to get better, and they will try to have you as the shoulder to cry on always. So, that's very classic of BPD. Now, when we're talking about psychopaths, sociopaths, and psychopaths, they're categorized together into one category called antisocial personality disorder. I told you, don't tell anybody about my illegal misconducts. Nobody knows that. My spouse doesn't know that. My family doesn't know that because I am a sociopath. I'm pretending to be one, okay? I'm telling you what a sociopath is like. But I am so charming. I'm so good looking. I have the perfect model figure. I have the perfect, charming, sweet, gentle speech. I'm the sweetest person for people in the outside. Very generous, very kind, very, very elegant, very soft spoken, very beautiful. But you have no clue how well I hold my power, how well I hold my family and my people under my feet. Because I need control. I need control because I'm extremely insecure of losing them. I'm extremely insecure of losing my power, and I need to use other people to get to my means. That's why I'm called a sociopath, and that's why I'm categorized under antisocial personality disorder. With a psychopath, it's just a little more severe. They could be serial killers. They could kill other people to get what they want because they lack empathy. Sociopaths and psychopaths not only lack empathy, they lack an inner sense of remorse and guilt for doing things that are bad, for even using other people to any lengths. They can use other people to any extent to get what they want. And they're so good at gaslighting. They're so good. Narcissists, antisocial personality disorders, they're extremely good at gaslighting, where they will somehow put the blame on you and convince you to feel guilty enough that they're either so helpless or they're not at fault. You're the person at fault. Even when they know that they're using you, even when they know that they're the ones who did bad things to you, they're the one who are holding the power over you and control over you, yet they're so good at that, playing that game of manipulation and psychological tricks, that's how people and spouses, especially living with sociopaths, don't even realize that they've been living with them for years, or even narcissists. But here's the clue. When you know that you're walking on eggshells, when you know that every day you're scared about what's coming next, every day you're scared about, today I'm not going to be acknowledged. Even when I share my own achievement or my own pain, the narcissist personality or the sociopath is going to disregard it. They will not show empathy. They will not understand and hear your feelings. They will not have time to listen to you as much as they want to talk about themselves. Or they will put you at fault constantly. So when you're feeling that constant unpredictability in their personality, and you start understanding and knowing more about these personalities and how they show up, what are their symptoms, you will start to recognize that there are tons and tons of narcissists around us, to be honest. And typically, I think it's said that every individual knows at least a lot more than one person who's a narcissist or who has some kind of personality disorder. And I have known a sociopath, not personally in my life, but in somebody else's life, and they did not know that. And sociopaths have criminal records, and they'll hide it so well. You won't even know. You'll be living with them for years. You won't even know they have a criminal record. They're extremely good at that. Psychopaths are just very intense. They can have very intense emotions and emotional disturbances, and they can literally kill if they have to get what they want. But the idea here is to not reject them. The idea here is to not think low of them or bad of them. But the idea for me to make this video and to enact that way, I acted that way so you could get the sense of it, to be aware. So there's a thin line that you have to draw between, it's good to not judge them and reject them, but that doesn't mean you have to give your life to them and continue living with them and, show your sympathy towards them, because they thrive on that. They thrive on people who have low self-confidence. They thrive on people who are extremely empathic and feeling individuals, who are very sensitive and caring. They thrive on that. That's how they keep their power. They don't want people who are going to draw boundaries. They don't want people who are going to start to recognize their manipulation and diplomacy and all of that. So the key to being with these people, in no matter what relationships, friendships, marriage I would say it's not healthy typically, unless if they're seeking support, psychological support through therapy and etc., and they're able to regulate their life. Typically, it's not a healthy relationship to be in. It has emotional side effects. So, but the key there is to keep your boundaries. You have to keep and they're going to do everything possible to pull you out of your boundary, everything possible to keep giving them attention, to keep giving them sympathy, where you're constantly giving, and you feel like there's nothing left for you in the relationship, and you feel very undermined, you feel very unsupported, unheard in the relationship. You feel like you're not being acknowledged or appreciated, but they keep asking that, and they keep they keep doubting you. They keep invoking more and more self-doubt and guilt in you. Those are the classic signs of being in any kind of relationship with borderline, with personality disorders. And so even though we may not reject them and we may not start judging them and saying bad, thinking that they're choosing to be that way, probably not. Probably that's their makeup. But that doesn't mean you have to give your life for them. It still means that you have to care for yourself. You still have to leave the relationship if that's needed for your own self-care, or learn tactics and draw boundaries and stand by your ground. And like a classic example of, I can give you real life examples right now, but I don't want to. Borderline personality disorder, sociopaths, I've interacted with all of those. I know a narcissist friend. A typical example with them is the moment you start drawing your boundaries, if you're explicit or even implicit, they're going to sense it so quickly that they're going to call you and say nice things to you and start praising you and say how much they miss you and how much. And the key there is they're still talking about themselves. They're still talking about their needs. They're not going to ask, what do you want? What do you want me to do? They're never going to ask, how do you want me to change? Never. They're never going to ask, how do you want me to change? Or if they ask, which I highly doubt, they're never going to do it. They're just going to that's just to win your trust again. The key there is they're going to keep your trust and thrive on your low self-esteem or low self-confidence or the trust that you have in them, right? So where you doubt yourself enough to say that they're right and I'm wrong. But I wanted to bring this awareness as a part of my psychology series, not to create judgment, but for you to start becoming aware that this is real. This is real. This happens. There are tons and tons of people with these. I knew, and I want you to know how it's different from schizophrenia, for example. I knew somebody very closely with schizophrenia. Schizophrenia is all about they're hallucinating. They're feeling there's somebody else out there, that they are talking to or knowing. Or in paranoid personality disorder, it's like somebody's out there to get me all the time. It's very fear-oriented. Or in dissociative personality disorder, which is very commonly known as split personality, it's a lot about there's so many different sides of me that I adapt to cope with past trauma. It's very PTSD related, that all of a sudden I become somebody else. So it's not about self-obsessions, right? So in this video, I'm only talking about personality disorders where there's self-obsession. And I work with special needs children. I work with children with autism, and oftentimes there is coexistence of a personality disorder with special needs. And again, there's no judgment. There's just awareness and information. That I've seen that with special needs, like when they look into the mirror, some of them, when there's that sense of some kind of personality disorder going on, they'll just keep looking in the mirror. Like they'll literally be so absorbed in themselves. They'll be oblivious, and they could do that for hours. For hours and hours, they can keep looking at themselves. And you'd wonder, what are they looking at, right? But that's their makeup. That's how they are. And how is it different from somebody who loves taking selfies all the time and talking about themselves, and they may not have personality disorders? It could just be a person who's on the, it's a relative scale. You could be somebody on the borderline. It could be somebody there. It could be just somebody who enjoys a lot of attention overall. So just because somebody enjoys attention does not make them a histrionic personality disorder person, right? So just don't start going and start labeling people. There's got to be like a list of other things that you need to know. But the key signs I've given you is there's self-obsession, there's manipulation, there is a sense of keeping you under their control no matter what. So I've given you all those important key points, but be very careful about just going out there and judging everybody. Like this person could be this person could be that. But I do follow your inner knowing. Your inner knowing will tell you there's something wrong about this person, like something is off. So I do believe in that. I do believe in trusting that as versus waiting for a psychological analysis exactly like. So I do believe in that. You might just know, yeah, this person now I can get it is a narcissist. Totally. After listening to my video, you might be like, yeah, so trust that. And they will not acknowledge your needs. They will not. They may say yes, they may listen to you, but then again, the attention is going to be, but I have so many problems in my life, but I am so great, but, etc., etc. So, and I am closely knowing somebody with BPD right now. It's very challenging. It's really very, very emotionally challenging. And the key is, again, to just draw your boundaries. You have to step away to care for yourself. And I was thinking, is there something else I wanted to mention? How is it different from, there could be people who just could be insecure. Yeah, how is it different from depression or anxiety, or people that are insecure and they feel helpless and they feel others' lives are better than them? Just because somebody feels that way doesn't make them borderline. The key to borderline, the core quality there is a very deep sense of abandonment from everybody or everything who's close to them, especially. They won't leave a job because they're scared of losing the money. They won't leave a relationship because they're scared of, I will be alone. They will hold on to it and suffer and suffer and suffer because they're so scared of letting that go. So that the feeling is consistent through all situations. Whereas in depression, or in mood disorders, it could be at the current moment. For the last several months, for example, something has been happening emotionally to them where they feel hopeless and helpless and they feel like a victim. So it can be a quality that somebody has, a story that somebody has adapted, but that doesn't make them a borderline personality disorder. They could be scared of being abandoned, but it's not like it's hampering their day-to-day relationships and functioning in every single situation. That's how a personality disorder is different from other emotional problems or disorders or conditions where you may see similar qualities, right? So, and I also want to mention that does not mean that they cannot be great individuals in work. So somebody, could be with a borderline personality disorder, but they could be very talented and they could shine in certain fields. Same with narcissists. Like narcissists will make the best prison leaders because you cannot afford to be very empathic. You cannot afford to be very sensitive, or in military. So I like to look at the positive aspect that it's so amazing how God has made the world that everybody has a place. Every single person. Even the special needs children that I work with high autism, they could behaviorally, they could be very challenged in social situations or academically. But there will be I've always seen with all my students, there will be certain qualities that they shine at, that they will be way better than any of us individuals who don't have those, who don't have that special needs, or who don't have a certain kind of personality makeup. They'll be like, one of my students, like, you see his typing, oh my goodness, out of the world. Like, he can beat a robot. So good at drawing, so good at creative thinking, but academically very challenged. Emotionally very oppositional defiant, very like constantly defying authority. So just having those qualities does not make them invaluable individuals. And it does not mean that they cannot be successful in life with their careers. They can be extremely unhappy and challenged in social relationships and social situations, and yet thrive in other areas of life. So that's a holistic approach that I like to take. I do believe that besides the psychology has its limitations, but there's a lot of energy work that I believe in that can completely change a person's makeup, and even release them from, or relieve to a certain extent, their personality disorders. So I do believe that there's a lot of other magical ways, like SRT, like energy work, other work. There's lots of, I don't want to mention all of that, or your access bars, etc., that you can do to relieve those qualities and symptoms. But psychology as a science overall, I find is a very limited viewpoint that humanity has, that humans have, towards treatment and solutions. That's my own personal view. There's no personal attack here to anybody. The intention of this video is to share information and keep you aware. So I hope you better understand that I need attention all the time. You've got to look at my video. And when you're looking at my video, you've got to keep looking at me. Just me. These sparkles around me, you see these stars, that frame? Yeah, that's who I am. I'm a star. I'm so special. I'm so cute. I'm so cool. I'm so powerful. And I will thrive on this power. I'll do anything for it. I'll do anything to keep you under my shoes, under my toes, under my power. Go now. Go and dream about me and how awesome I am. Bye, guys. Rima Desai signing off.